This Sunday on In Depth, celebrating the male figures in our lives this Father's Day.
To be vulnerable and to connect with people on like an authentic level, that's hard. That's hard to lead into that.
The local organization bringing dads together on a deeper level. How the group aims to provide a safe space for men to navigate fatherhood together. And
stigma plays a huge role, and specifically with men and some traditional ideas around mental health and how men should process or deal with concerns that they might have. We know that it plays a huge barrier.
It's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. We speak with the Vermont Department of Health about the growing concerns among the male population and the important resources to connect your loved ones with before it's too late. Plus,
family, friends, and fishing. So that's what it's all about.
Gone Fishing with Dad, the Father's Day Derby you can take part in on Lake Champlain today while getting out and supporting local business. All that and more coming up right now on NBC5 In Depth. Good morning and happy Father's Day. I'm Lauren Granada, and this is NBC5 In Depth. As we celebrate the dads and important male figures in our lives today, we're taking a look at the gender gap between parents. Studies show postpartum depression happens to dads too. A report in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that 10% of men worldwide showed signs of depression from the first trimester of their wife's pregnancy through 6 months after the child was born. The number spiked to 26% during the 3 to 6 month period after the baby was born. One nonprofit in our region called Dad Guild is focused on giving fathers a safe place of support so that they don't feel alone. Here's Dad Guild's founder and executive director, Keegan Albog, to explain. Keegan Albog, thank you for being with us this morning, and happy Father's Day to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Tell me about your journey through fatherhood.
Whew, that's a big question. Yeah, my journey through fatherhood, I became a dad in 2016, and I just fell in love with my kid right away, and it just changed my life dramatically. And it also felt really isolating because there wasn't a whole lot of community and support and connection opportunities out there for dads. So it was a pretty isolating experience at first. And it's like your life just like totally changes around and you're like, wow, I need to talk to people about this who are in a similar situation.
Why do you think it's so isolating in that sense?
Well, research shows that men in the past 30 years have already, the number of close friends they have has cut in half from 6 to 3. Which means that in the course of 30 years, men have lost 50% of their friendships. When folks become parents, that isolation only increases. There was a research study down at Massachusetts General Hospital a number of years ago, and they asked all the new dads, like, hey, do you have someone to go talk to about being a dad or fatherhood topics? And a third of them said no, they had no one. And so when you combine the loneliness of men and the lack of opportunities to talk about fatherhood with people, it just creates this really, it creates a crisis.
And that obviously is what sparked the Dad Guild for you to start. Tell me about what gave you that idea and how the group came together.
Yeah, we got the idea from Dad Guild. I facilitated a group for new dads at Evolution Yoga when that was around in Burlington. And we had a group of, there was like 7 or 8 dads who attended this monthly meeting just to talk about being a dad and connect. And it went from the first day, people being like, yeah, I'm here because my partner kind of made me or encouraged me. And I was like, uh-oh. But I'm glad you're here. But by month 9, everyone was super connected. And they were like, this felt so good. I didn't know I needed this in my life. What's next? And I think for me, that was there's a big opportunity here. People want to connect and they just might not know it. And so just kind of leaning into our community and seeing what people were interested in. And yeah, that's kind of how Dad Guild came to be.
For those who don't have a child, what is it like? I know you said that your life changes instantly, but tell me more about your experience. You mentioned feeling isolated. And how did you get yourself out of that? And how did you realize the need for this community?
Yeah, can feel so isolating because your life changes literally overnight. Like the hours you're awake, the friends you're hanging out with, when you're available, how much free time you're getting, what your relationship with your partner or co-parent looks like. Having a crying lump of flesh, just nonstop, just demanding. It's so much, and it's exhausting. It's so beautiful, and it's a huge shift. And when you don't have someone to process that with, that's really problematic, especially with men, where we know that men commit suicide 4 times the rate of women, and we know that men are also half as likely to seek out mental health support when they are struggling or feeling isolated. So it just really highlights the importance of, gosh, this isolation just comes. This is such a huge life event. It's so critical that you build a community and you connect with people and you have fun while you're doing it.
And when it comes to childbirth, the mother usually is the main focus of the birth of the baby. But tell me about the importance of also being aware of the father's role in becoming a new parent.
Yeah, there's so much research out there that shows when dads and partners of the person who gave birth are supported and engaged. Kids, there's so many developmental outcomes that are present for kids that show up later on in life. And there's a lot of research that shows there's positive relational benefits, and people are feeling less stressed, less anxious. The partner who just had a kid, they can feel more supported, and because they're in recovery, they're going through a lot. And so having someone who is available and there and has their network to be there to support is such a huge asset.
And how does something like the Dad Guild play a part in helping other fathers navigate through this whole journey?
Yeah, so there's been some research out there that shows men and dads prefer informal, peer-led, casual learning environments and communities. And historically, that's not how we've approached building fatherhood community. Historically, it's been maybe an organization that gets some funding and kind of from a top down, present something to the community. Whereas ours has been very grassroots, hey, we're a bunch of dads with kids, we're gonna build this. Very similar to the Rogaine commercials, or the I'm not just the director, I'm also a client. I very much lean into this community when I'm looking for a connection and support. I forgot what your initial question was.
No, just talk to me about, what the Dad Guild does to kind of close that gender equality gap and to support each other.
Oh yeah, so we just create a large number of opportunities that look to meet dads where they're at. And so we have a wide spectrum of activities. So it's not just, hey, here's this group that meets once a week on a Wednesday afternoon. It's, hey, we have events and opportunities to connect on the weekends, weekdays, during the day, at night, with kids, without kids, virtual, in person, workshops, going out and doing trivia, playing basketball. We really try to make it so there's something for everyone. We even have a Facebook group with 700 dads in it. We have a newsletter, and we're working on a podcast right now. So just really trying to make sure that regardless of where their geographic location is, what their social anxiety is, what their schedule looks like, that we have something for everyone.
Do you think that there's a stigma around fathers needing help?
Sorry, my initial reaction was laughing. It's a million percent. I hear conversations all of the time, and this is something that we are really trying to change, because historically there hasn't been much for fatherhood support and engagement, and because of that, the few programs or groups that have existed have really just, let's focus on folks who are the most oppressed in our society, which 1,000,000% if we have limited resources. And a concern I have with that is it just kind of perpetuates that idea that unless you have all this stuff going on in life, you're all set, you don't need support, when in reality, we know so many people are carrying stuff. There's research that shows in the first 5 years after the birth of a child, mental health challenges like anxiety and depression increased by 67 or 68%. And so it's like there's a lot of people going through stuff who could use support. And so we're not trying to do an either or, but like a yes and how are we building more into our community.
Why do you think it's so hard for dads to reach out for that help?
Yeah, it's, I think a lot about how masculinity is portrayed in our society and just how we're conditioned. Men are conditioned to not show emotions. And I know I feel like it's becoming more and more common, or we're asking men to lean into that more and more. Yeah, at the same time, we're not necessarily building communities where it's safe to do that. And so we're trying to create this safe space because I think to be vulnerable and to connect with people on like an authentic level, that's hard. That's hard to lead into that. And so we're just trying to model that vulnerability and just show like, hey, here's a safe community where you can come and lean in, and this is the stuff we're talking about. And we have a network of over 1,000 dads, including like 75-ish that come to in-person programming every month across the state. So people are looking for it.
Yeah, and how do you think partners can also be supportive of both parents needing that support and seeking it out?
Oh, yeah. And it's the number, if I had like a nickel for every time I had a dad's partner / mom reach out and say like, I wish my husband or I wish my partner would come to Dad Guild stuff because I know he needs support. And for those who have approached me, I hear you. And it's, this is the long game that we're playing, to get to a point in our society where men can feel open to admitting they need support and that they can't do it all alone, which is what they've been kind of told they need to do. It's gonna take some time for people to feel comfortable reaching out like that. But it's just, oh gosh, it's so critical. And a lot of the communities are designed where they're pretty mom heavy and mom dominant, which is awesome. But one of the problems that happens there is that mom or that partner becomes the default parent. And then when it comes to researching birthday parties, camps, what is the pediatrician saying, who's scheduling play dates, all of this stuff, it falls into that person's lap because they have the community. So it's, if dad doesn't like lean into a community, it's kind of like he's already missing out on an opportunity to be more connected to raising their child.
And maybe for some dads who are curious, what is it like to be part of the Dad Guild, and how have you benefited from having this community and network?
Oh yeah, Dad Guild, I mean, we do an annual survey and to kind of measure our impact. And year after year, we see that dads who participate in our programming, they increase the number of social connections they have, they increase their confidence levels as caregivers. They report identifying feeling less stress and anxiety when they're connecting with dads. They're reaching out to dads outside of the group. So it feels like this really rich network. And whenever I see someone saying like, hey, I need help, or hey, I just want to talk, people are there to like, they're eager to like lean in and support each other. And it also is really fun. Like we do like concerts and we play, like I said, we play basketball. We have like a monthly campfire. This Father's Day, we have like a lot of really great fun stuff coming up. So it's just like it's a really awesome community to be a part of.
Thank you so much again, and happy Father's Day to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you so much.
And today, Dad Guild is hosting its second annual Father's Day weekend celebration. Events run from 12 to 4, and you can find more information online, as well as how to get involved with the organization by visiting the website on the bottom of your screen, dadguild.org. Still ahead here, highlighting the importance of prioritizing mental health awareness among men, the alarming number that don't seek help, and the important resources you can access right at your fingertips in times of need. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and according to data from the Department of Health, men in Vermont are less likely to seek mental health support, and 2/3 of deaths by suicide are by men. That's why Vermont has partnered with an online platform called Man Therapy. It's an online platform that offers a wellness inspection and connects you with resources and therapists. I spoke with Stephanie Bush, the Injury Prevention Program Manager at the Department of Health, to explain.
Thank you for being with us today, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me.
So talk to me about the importance of men's mental health and why it gets overlooked often.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in thinking of really any population and men specifically, stigma plays a huge role in anyone, their willingness to reach out for help or seeking help as well. So in Vermont, in 2023, we know that 123 Vermonters died by suicide. And we know that stigma plays a huge role, and specifically with men and some traditional ideas around mental health and how men should process or deal with concerns that they might have. We know that it plays a huge barrier.
Talk to me about some of the state's efforts to close that gap when it comes to gender equality and mental health, and how far we've come when it comes to that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So in thinking about kind of the impact towards men, so 8 out of 10 suicide deaths within Vermont are males. So they die at a rate of 4 times higher than people who identify as female. And so one of the things that we also know that there are other populations that are disproportionately impacted by both an access to like mental health help, as well as thinking about suicide specifically. So what we've been doing as a part of some of our grant funded work as a state with our state partners and community partners is really working to address that stigma component, to reduce stigma, and then also make information and mental health information more accessible to different populations. So one of the things that we've been doing specifically in thinking about men who are disproportionately impacted by suicide death is partnering with Man Therapy, which is a evidence-based online educational web resource tool to really reduce stigma, increase awareness around mental health, and then also provide like quick tips or information around mental health and substance use, specifically geared towards men, people who identify as male.
And how does the online component kind of play a role in this, in men seeking help and feeling comfortable to find those resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were looking at this population and specific interventions or programming that we like to call for this population, Man Therapy came up as a national resource. So it was developed in Colorado, and really kind of looking at that specific population of people who might not want to access. And so the web-based resource is a great tool to work to reduce some of that stigma. So it doesn't require someone to go to a specific location or maybe even like talk to someone right off the bat. And so it can kind of reduce that stigma. We did some paid promotion when we were piloting this in 2022 and 2023 in 2 specific areas. So we did piloting in Rutland and then also in Caledonia, understanding that sometimes internet access can also be a challenge and a barrier. And we found a huge success. We also worked with a bunch of community partners to just promote it and increase awareness. And through that partnership, not only were we able to bring this information to a wider audience, we were also able to link up some of our Vermont specific resources. So when people go to that page, they can kind of engage with the different videos. There's a head inspection that can kind of kind of like how you get your car inspected, whether you're excited about that or not. But then based off of that assessment can help to direct people towards resources that might be helpful. And what we found through that pilot was about 215 head inspections were completed by Vermonters that during this kind of 1-year pilot. And then with that, 18 people actually were directly connected to the crisis resource, like the crisis line, so 988, which really shows that the kind of approach that we're taking can work to reduce barriers, kind of help educate people on the different information resources, and then have that assessment tool that 215 people completed in Vermont, and then 18 people got clicked the button to get connected directly to a crisis lifeline. So we think that's a success, and that was just a year and really focusing on 2 different counties. And so what we're doing now, starting this month in kind of honor of Men's Health Month and thinking about men's mental health and bringing this resource and really the promotion and awareness of it statewide.
How has the state's focus on men's mental health shifted throughout the years? Because I know that this is a new program that the state has implemented. How has it changed throughout the years, and how has that focus really come to light, especially recently?
Yeah, so Vermont was extremely fortunate to be awarded a CDC suicide prevention grant looking at suicide prevention as public health, from a public health approach. And so suicide prevention kind of in general has really shifted over the years around, it just being focused on just mental health treatment and thinking about kind of these wider different approaches from a public health approach. And so this resource is one of those ways that we've been able to support. So in thinking of, we just need to get people into mental health care, and that's it, counseling or therapy or whatnot, taking a more public health approach about how can we work to engage everyone within the community. So state partners, community organizations, families, individuals themselves, to raise awareness around suicide prevention, that suicide can be preventable, that there are resources that are out there, and it's not just kind of one model that's going to fit all. So that's been one of the really big pieces around this. I would also say as well is, through some of this grant work that we've been able to do is really enhancing the data and what we know around just suicide specifically, and also specifically thinking about people who identify as male. So last year we had a suicide data linkage project. So it was looking at every Vermonter that died by suicide in a 2-year period. And so one of the things from that we identified was that a vast majority of people who died by suicide in this given period had some kind of known crisis within 2 weeks of their death. So how can we work with communities, families, to really identify when someone's struggling and how to help get them support? I think we've always done that type of stuff, but really having the data has strengthened our approach. And then, really working collaboratively with all of the partners have been amazing. We've been able to kind of ramp things up.
And you can access Man Therapy resources on their website below on your screen now at mantherapy.org. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, help is available 24/7. It's as simple as dialing 988. When we come back here, take your father out for some fishing, how you could win big prizes at a derby on Lake Champlain, and support local business as we enter the summer season. Bye. Welcome back. If you're still looking for something to do with Dad today, you can head out to Lake Champlain for the annual Father's Day Fishing Derby. It runs through Monday. Lake Champlain International has been running the tournament for more than 40 years. You can fish from your boat or from the shore for more than a dozen species. There are cash prizes for the top 10 sizes in 9 divisions, plus prizes for junior anglers, female anglers, and Angler of the Year. Set a record and you could win a $10,000 reward. The event connects communities across the lake every year, whether you're competing or just watching the excitement. For Richard and Nick Arnold of Peru, New York, it's been a tradition for close to 30 years. The father-son duo started participating just a few years after Richard taught his son to fish, and they say they haven't missed a tournament since.
We've had some success along the way, but that's not really what it's about. It's more about just getting out and enjoying each other's company. As the LCI says, family, friends, and fishing. So that's what it's all about. I don't think we're going to stop until...
Depends on my longevity.
Right. I don't see us, as long as they're holding the Derby, we'll be there.
4 years ago, I went out with a broken leg. So what's that tell you?
Yep.
And final standings from the Father's Day Derby will be posted online by noon on Wednesday. For more information on rules and boundaries of the competition, visit the Lake Champlain International website. That's all the time we have today. Thank you for watching NBC5 In Depth on this Father's Day. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Take care.